Welcome back. All right, I haven't talked about this topic in over 5 years. I did a double check. I did do a video on this, I think it was May of 2018. Since then, I've moved twice. The channel's grown a bit, and I think it's worth taking a look at. Jim Balsillie is suddenly in the news again because the Blackberry movies come out. Blackberry, a company that was red hot at one point in time, and there's some debate about whether or not his foray into trying to become a National Hockey League owner might have negatively impacted his company. He says no, and we'll talk about that again. We'll come back to that by the end of this. But Jim Balsillie was pretty clear in a couple of things. One, he wanted to own an NHL team. And two, he wanted that team to be moved to Hamilton. He had no interest in going the usual NHL route, and we'll talk about the usual NHL route in this video as well. This is a little more in-depth than the last video I did on this topic. So October 5th of 2006, he ends up in the news as he makes a $185 million bid. Keep in mind that at the time I'm recording this, the Ottawa Senators now are getting bids for like $1 billion. So market's changed a little bit over the last 17 years. So he makes that bid for the Penguins, intending to move them to Hamilton. And that was it. Just, yeah, so I want to buy this team and move it to Hamilton. Just imagine. Penguins moving to Hamilton. He withdrew on December 15th. Gary Bettman had sent him a notice that basically said, we'll negotiate the arena deal, and in the event that we don't like the way things are going, we reserve the right to take over the team if we have to. And he backed out. So it was basically the NHL calling his bluff and saying, we're not just going to give you this team and let you back out of an arena deal or, lowball an arena deal and then pick up shop and move. Say, well, I tried, but Pittsburgh just doesn't have an interest in keeping the team. So we know that Pittsburgh stayed, and we know that it's been a success story since then. But he was undeterred. May 23rd of 2007, he reaches an agreement to buy the Nashville Predators with owner Craig Leopold. And June 28th, he didn't sign. Now, why he didn't sign is simple. Jim Balsillie had said, yeah, no, I'm going to keep the team in Nashville. I'm going to keep the team in Nashville. Why wouldn't you think I'm going to keep the team in Nashville? And then, as if Craig Leopold isn't going to know what's going on, he was selling season tickets in Hamilton. He had the rights to Copps Coliseum. He was going to move him to Copps Coliseum while telling the owner of the Predators, no, I'm going to keep him in Nashville. Why wouldn't I keep him in Nashville? Because you're selling tickets in Hamilton. So, again, the first time around, the NHL steps in and says, we're not letting you just move this team because you feel like it. And now this was a guy selling the team saying, what, you're selling tickets in Hamilton. I'm not signing this. So they came to an agreement, but when it came to putting pen to paper and finalizing it, Craig Leopold said no. Wanted the team to stay in Nashville. And then May 5th of 2009, and this is the most famous of the three because people know that Pittsburgh's been a success story. People know that Nashville has mostly been a success story. But back in 07, there was plenty of discussions about whether or not you could make money in Nashville as well. And so he made a $212.5 million offer for the Coyotes. The team was in bankruptcy. So this was the one there all the fans just jump on right away. Like, yep, you can do this. Move the Coyotes. We agree. We 100% agree. Move the Coyotes. Get them done. The NHL stepped in hours later. So Jerry Moyes, the owner of the Coyotes, had made this arrangement, and the NHL stepped in and said, no, you don't. So Balsillie had kind of overplayed his hand a bit, right? Where he had made it clear in two cases already, he was only interested in having a team in Hamilton. Put him in Copps Coliseum, sell season tickets, profit. He wasn't interested in going through the usual NHL channels. I don't think this move would have gone through anyways. Even if he sells all those season tickets in Hamilton, even if he has the rights to a building in Copps, the Board of Governors can step in and say, no, we're not allowing that move. I've often heard people say, well, Toronto could block the move. I don't think Toronto would. And I think the reason why is Toronto will always sell out. There are a lot of hockey fans in that area of the world. I think if you can support multiple teams in New York, I think if you can support two teams very close to each other in LA and Anaheim, I don't see any reason you can't have a team in Ontario, not that far removed from Toronto, and have both teams succeed. But the NHL stepped in, and June the 15th, The judge rejects the bid because the bid had a June 29th deadline to basically say, okay, so we're out of here. I want to buy the team, and it's going. We're going to Hamilton. It's done. We're going to Hamilton. Judge is like, I can't do that. I can't tell the NHL that a team's being moved. That's not. We can't do that. And then that same judge on September 30th, he doubled down on it. He rejects the bid again, and this time adding with prejudice, meaning that Jim Balsillie could not make another bid for that team. That the Coyotes were no longer a team he was able to make the bid on. Now, there's a lot that gets made about this as this is the NHL trying to keep teams out of Canada. I never saw it that way. I saw it that this was a guy who was trying to go around the NHL's Board of Governors, trying to go around NHL regulations, and use legal wranglings to get his way. Use legal wranglings to get a team to where he wants it, Hamilton. May 31st of 2011. This is noteworthy because this is years after Balsillie's failed attempts to move a team into Hamilton. The Thrashers were sold to True North and moved to Winnipeg. Bettman at the time said, it's nice to be back in Winnipeg after all these years. So this is where the argument that, well, if this owner had been trying to step in to move it to an American location, it wouldn't have been a problem. It's because it's Canada. No, because here's real money coming in from True North to move a team to Winnipeg, and they have MTS Arena there, and the NHL saying, yeah, we can do that. We can move the team there. And True North had also looked at the Coyotes, and they were considering whether or not to try to get the Coyotes and move them back to Winnipeg. However, Glendale voted to subsidize the team. Glendale City Council was fascinating. I remember in the existence of this channel watching a Glendale City Council where they basically got talked into keeping the Coyotes there and doing what they could and throwing money in it. I remember saying at the time, that's just, throwing good money after bad. And it was. It didn't work out in Glendale. But for the True North people, they went to the Thrashers because Atlanta, yeah, they were losing the building. And there was bad ownership with the Thrashers. And there were some bad moves. Trading out Heatley, trading out Kovalchuk, trading out Hossa. There were a lot of star players that came through Atlanta and just ended up getting traded out. And they never seemed to get the right return for that either. Now, when this team got sold and got moved to Winnipeg, there were rumors that Balsillie was interested and that maybe he was a part of it. That's never been confirmed that he had anything to do with it. But there were other rumors that he might be involved in ownership attempts elsewhere, but it's never really come through, right? And at this point in time, I'd be very surprised if he made any bids for anything NHL related, because I think the NHL has decided no. Now, June 21st of 2011, the Board of Governors unanimously votes to move the Thrashers to Winnipeg. So this was all of the owners saying, yes, we want a team in Winnipeg. And this is after 3 attempts to move a team to Hamilton that did not work out. Now, Balsillie, in talking about the Blackberry movie that's out now, and I haven't watched the Blackberry movie yet. Eventually I will. It's got one of the main guys from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So right there, that's a winning move. Playing Balsillie, which is also the right move. So he says, I'm aggressive, I'm competitive, I'm ambitious, I own that. And I think that really summarizes how he went about trying to become an NHL owner. Aggressive, competitive, and ambitious. And I think that led to him not becoming an NHL owner and if anything, taking Hamilton further out of the possibility of getting an NHL team. Now, he says that the NHL bids did not impact his company. Apparently, the movie shows it somewhat different. That there were blackouts going on and that he was busy trying to become an NHL owner and that it negatively impacted the business. Now, BlackBerry is out of the smartphone business. The iPhone, Android came out and just put them out. I was never one that owned a BlackBerry. I hated the buttons. I knew people that had BlackBerries. I'm like, I hated all the little tiny buttons. Couldn't stand it. That's why on The Office, when they have that episode where Ryan's trying to give everybody BlackBerries, I think it's so funny because the complaints that everybody has trying to set up the BlackBerries is the reason I never had one. Now, the idea of Hamilton being viable, I want to throw that in, and I am wearing a Hamilton Bulldogs jersey, which looks a lot like the NHL's Parlay All-Star jerseys. Smart move. Very smart move. I think it's a good look. But Hamilton has 729,560 people in the city. So that's not including surrounding areas. Now, Winnipeg, for comparison, 758,515. Quebec City, 733,156. Now, if the argument is that Hamilton's too small, then so is Quebec City, because Quebec City has a little bit, around 4,000 more people than Hamilton. Now, maybe all 4,000 of those people are hockey fans, but yeah, no, I think Hamilton can support a team. But they're 68.2 kilometers from Kitchener. So that's like less than an hour's drive. That's not bad. Kitchener's one, too, that's been talked about as a potential location for an expansion team if the NHL ever went and decided to put another team in Southern Ontario. And again, I think it can work. I think it can support that. If there's one place in Canada where there's enough concentrated population to make multiple teams work, yeah, it's Southern Ontario. And then they're 102.45 kilometers by car from Buffalo. And I say by car because it is different than straight. Generally, you can't just go straight from one city to another. I can be, walking over mountains and all that. But yeah, 102.45 kilometers from Buffalo. And I think Buffalo would veto it. I don't know that Toronto would. They're 81 kilometers away from Toronto. So I don't think that Toronto would necessarily veto a team in Hamilton, but I think Buffalo would try. Because again, Buffalo's, their attendance has not been robust over the last few years. Yeah, the last thing they would need is a team in Hamilton drawing away the Canadian fans across the border to watch the games in Buffalo. So it is a challenge. It's one that Jim Balsillie thought he could do a quick end around and just get that team, whichever team it was, and move them into Canada. But it failed 3 times over. And after those 3 failures, Canada did put another team, or the NHL did put another team into Canada in the Winnipeg Jets coming back to the league, though this time from Atlanta, so it's a different franchise, but the same name. Yeah, I know. Definitely an NHL thing. But again, I would fully get behind a team in Hamilton. As I've said, I would get behind a team in Quebec City, but the NHL does not at this point in time seem to have the interest in either location. And it's too bad because Hamilton has a nice long history with hockey, and I think it could have worked. But he was just too aggressive. His own standard that he's aggressive, competitive, ambitious, that's who he is. That's probably what ended up costing him any hope of owning a team. And if he had not been selling season tickets in Hamilton, if he hadn't been that bold with his attempt to own the Nashville Predators, maybe he would have owned the Preds. I don't think the NHL would have let him move the team, and I think that would have led to frustration on his behalf and probably the NHL's later too. They probably would have forced a sale, but he at least would have had something to sell at that point. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.